Good morning. Today we are on a walking tour in the city of Merida, which is the capital of Yucatan. It's an intriguing city, to say the least. Many places for us to take a look at, and I would suggest that this is an old world city, purely on the structures and the architecture that tells us that this place was generating free energy, electromagnetism. So let's take a little wander and see the many places of interest. Vamos! So here I am in the main square, and this cathedral behind me has all the hallmarks of an energy building. If we take a look at the towers, both towers have horseshoe magnets running all the way around each tower, with a spire and 4 mini spires at the side of the dome on each one. And then if we come down to the middle of the building, this giant horseshoe magnet here, which obviously is filled in the middle, but the actual structure itself is a huge horseshoe magnet running in the center. And we'll go over and take a closer look at this emblem in a moment. So in the middle of the emblem, I'm pretty sure it's a phoenix, but that might be symbolic towards something. But I'm more interested in the patterns on the outside and around the emblem in the middle, because that is the toral flow. That is the toral field in action, electromagnetism, the flow of free energy. Now this park just opposite the cathedral that we're walking through is laid out like a mini circuit board. We saw this in Valladolid, and I'm seeing this more and more. Look at this beautiful building, opposite end of the park, as you can see up there, a dome with an antenna on top. This has got 4 clocks in the middle that could have been added at a later date, repurposing. We see this quite a lot, like with Big Ben in London. But look at these horseshoe magnets all here, the archways. Inside these pillars would be the iron rods, and it's the iron that is the great conductor of electromagnetism. And the outside stonework is just for the decoration purposes, for the structure, not actually serving the purpose for the flow of electromagnetism. But all of those magnets there would create a huge energy field, and this would be the point of harnessing, where it would come through the ether, come down the antenna into this building, and this would be storing it in some capacity. And that other cathedral that we were just looking at is literally just there, the opposite end of this park. This park being laid out like a mini circuit board. Even on the other side of the park, we have the archways all the way along on all 3 buildings here. It looks beigey, but that is actually the red stonework, which again is similar to the Tartarian iron ore. Because of the ionisation, it actually helps assist this process of electromagnetism. Just at the side of the cathedral, not in the square's just there at the front, but just at the side of the cathedral, have another structure here with the magnets on top there, the horseshoe style magnets, covered with the outside rendering. Inglesia, smaller in size, but perhaps assisting the bigger generators of the electromagnetism in some capacity. There are many of these actually all around. Look at this, interesting as well. This is similar to what we see in the UK at the cathedrals, with the sort of like, it's almost like pipe work, but it's covered in stone. All you would need to have in there is the iron rods, and this would create the magnet, the energy toral field. This is the opposite side of the street to the building we were just looking at, and again More horseshoe style magnets, and this one has ornamentation on top. 5 points of ornamentation. You could easily imagine an antenna of some sort being in those. Perhaps they're new rendering, perhaps it is as it was. We will never know. Wow, 1 block from where we just were, and look at this. The dome in the background here. You can see a big dome, and then a smaller dome on top, and it has cylinders running around the side of it with horseshoe magnets in between each cylinder. This is creating a battery capacitator, and it also has a weathercock on top of this one, which is repurposing. Would have been a huge iron antenna on there, and this capacitator would have been holding huge amounts of electromagnetism with a bigger dome underneath with more horseshoe magnets running around, and it's actually stained glass that's placed in there, which is repurposing again. And look at it just to the side. Two towers much similar to what we just saw in the same square. This was only one block from where we were just viewing. So this central area here in Merida is a power station. It's a huge power station to have these structures all within close proximity of each other, showing the same antiquitech, same purposes. It would have been generating huge amounts of free energy, and this being the capital of the Yucatan state, Yucatan Peninsula, probably is the main hub for the whole area. This would have been supplying huge amounts of free energy towards the old world. What a fascinating structure. And these are little ornamentations here just on these. You can easily again imagine iron antennas poking out the top of those. At the front of this structure we have the toral flow in representation. Again, more points of the toral field, the energy field, the natural flow of electromagnetism. A straight walk some 200 meters from our last point of interest, and we find another incredible structure. I'm not too sure if you can see there, but there's another dome. Lots of antiquitech of some sort, modern antiquitech I would say, running around the edges, repurposing. But there is a dome there, there's 2 domes again with cylinders, horseshoe magnets inside the smaller dome on top, and at the front of this structure there is horseshoe magnets, which you can just sort of make out there in the distance. Sorry, pointing at the wrong place. I think I'm pointing at it where I'm looking, but I forget I've got a point on the GoPro. But another magnificent structure, and there's actually a gate as well that's just at the side of this beautiful building. So we'll go around and take a look at this. These old gates to old world cities that are magnets, huge magnets, just places of generating more electromagnetism and storing and helping the flow of the electromagnetism via the ether. This is the front of the structure we were just looking at from behind. Just a shame I can't show you from an aerial view, show you the copper domes, the domes that are still intact with some of the antiquitech still there, not all. As always with these things, antiquitech gets lost, repurposed, but we still get to see the outline of the structure. Another beautiful building. There is this giant horseshoe magnet there standing. Now we see many of these in the old world, these old world gates that are just standing on their own. They normally have gaps either side. Some more famous ones are the Marble Arch, Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, and also the Arc de Triomphe. Now that word arc and arch, obviously this is synonymous now with arch. When we say arch, this is what we think of, archways. But it actually comes from the word arc, and arc is synonymous with electricity, electromagnetism, an arc that sparks it. I would say that is telling us a lot of information just in that small synonymous words there. Now that gate just behind me, I can see another one some 100 meters away. I've noticed two as well in this city. When you really start to look at these things as giant horseshoe magnets generating the magnetism, you see them in a completely different light as opposed to just being a freestanding gate. As I say, many of these gates that we associate them with have gaps either side of them, so they're not much of a gate if you can just get round the side of it. Keep your eyes opened on it and you'll notice it a lot more, but we'll go and take a look at this second magnet just in the distance. So in the distance I can see another power generator, towers, with the Antiquitech on top. We'll go and take a closer look. But we're on the same road as those two gates that we just came from, and they were also in alignment with the previous buildings that we've looked at. I don't think it's just a coincidence. These buildings and these gates, these magnets, are in straight lines, lining up with each other. This would help in some way of assisting the electromagnetism. Wow, these towers actually still have the spire on, and they're using a modern day aerial today. You can imagine the old world aerial would be slightly better than today's version of aerials. Fascinating to see. And the spire itself, obviously the stone work is on the outside, but the real Antiquitech is what's what's beyond the stone. And this also has, again, you can see a dome cylinder, magnets on a smaller scale on top of the bigger dome, and there's some really interesting patterns on the front of this, so we'll go and take a closer look. So you can see the toral filled with these patterns, but this like a seashell. Is that some kind of acoustic assistance, or just a pattern to help the toral flow perhaps, or just decoration, or modern decoration that doesn't actually serve any purpose whatsoever? A beautiful structure. Again, the two gates that we come from were just along this road, and they lined up with the other buildings along a straight road this way. And there's more similar structures close to this one, so we're going to take another look again. This beautiful, impressive residential building just behind me here. If you look at the top on the corner there, you can still see the ornamentation that would have had where the antenna would have stood. This one here has got the netting around it. This is old world ornamentation. And this is a Tartarium building. If you look just under these window points here, you can see the toral field. You can still see the design, which is homage to the toral field as well, just underneath here. The toral field in action. Just a beautiful building. So many of these old world structures, residential buildings here in the city of Merida. Beautiful. This building behind me, you can't see it here, but I'll get a closer shot as I walk away. It's got a huge dome with an antenna on. These buildings are just a short distance from where we just were. I'd say they were Greco-Roman. This is just the term we use to describe it, but it's the Tartarian culture right here in Merida, same as you would find in London, Paris, all over the realm, in fact, India. And you see the toral swells. all decorating the entire structure here on the top parts here. This is the toral swell, electromagnetism. And as I say, this building here has a dome, huge dome, red dome with an antenna on, and as I walk away I'll get a better shot and show you this one. It's a beautiful street here, it really is. Actually, that might be a better shot of the dome in the background there with the huge antenna on, as you can see, red dome. This is us back at the main square, but I didn't notice this earlier, not too sure how. But look at the huge ornamentation on the side of this building here. It's on all 4 points. I noticed it as I was walking back to this main square. Incredible in size. All that's missing is the iron antenna. There's a few more places just to look at that are just up here, and that will bring ends to this little wander around Merida. I think it's very clear that this is an old world power station, you know, powering much of the Yucatan and Quintana Roo for electromagnetism. Look at this here as well, ornamentations up on the side of this building. As I said, this is the square that we was at first thing this morning. Beautiful, incredible. So they have all of the smaller ornamentation points for smaller iron rods, mini antennas that would have been placed in each one, and the bigger power stations would have been generating the vast majority of the electromagnetism, and these would have just been feeding like a mini Wi-Fi grid, you know, just bringing it to each building in close proximity. As I said, there was the main source of the electromagnetism, power station. Other towers in the background there, you see them ones that we looked at. Yeah, good shot of the dome actually now, just to the side of it. You see that just there? The dome there. So these would have been generating the overall vast majority of the electromagnetism, and then the smaller antennas feeding off on these little antiquitech points that you see just on the buildings in the surrounding areas. And going on would create a grid, would create like a Wi-Fi grid, just feeding each other, continual flow of electromagnetism. Wow. Still in the main square, and we see some red brick, Tartarium red brick. We've seen the iron ore red stone whilst walking around. And this is the first old school Tartarium red brick that I've seen right here on this square. Amazing. This is our last square to view in this little mini walking tour, and another mini power station. Look at that with the tower, ornamentation at the side, horseshoe style magnet. And as we walk around this building, we'll see in the front of it is a mini circuit board, which is close to most of these little mini power stations. Small circuit boards that mirror what we see in computer chips. Much how the energy is harvested through the computer board. It's much the same for electromagnetism, just a different process but the same principles. You can see the toral depiction there as well in the pattern, which we just think is there for, you know, to look good. It actually does have some sort of purpose, might not serve a purpose to assist the energy in a way, but it's paying homage, it's direct reference to what these buildings are all about, which is electromagnetism. So just with the building behind me, just walking through the park bit, this is the circuit board, mini computer chip board, water fountain, water always being a key component to this electromagnetism, so no surprise to see that in the middle of the circuit board. And just in the corner is another huge magnet, a gate, which we looked at earlier. We're going to so there you can see this one has some ornamentation on top. Would have been cool to see what it would have looked like in its original inception. Still another horseshoe magnet just there in the corner of this square where we just were. power station over there, computer chip board there. Beautiful, amazing to see all of this in close proximity. Just as I'm walking away from the square with the gate in the background, the magnet in the background, as you can see, it's another old style building there with a dome on top. Not too sure if you can see it just there, just make it out, the dome. On top of it has lots of smaller ornamentation for the aerials. And these buildings are dotted all along these streets that are surrounding these power stations. As I say, this to me is an old world Tartarian city that would have been supplying huge amounts of electromagnetism to the Yucatan state peninsula. And a beautiful city, a beautiful city. We're going to take a closer look at that building and wrap this video up. So there is that building that had the copper dome on, Greco-Roman. You can see the toral swells in the decoration all around. Even at the top there, these little smaller ones that run adjacent, it's the toral. And again the ornamentation points on top that I was speaking about. Toral representation, energy flow lines, which would have had a copper antenna in those ornamentations for the electromagnetism. And this seems like a good place to wrap up this walking tour of Merida. Let me know what you think about it, if you think it is an old world power station, Tartarian city, creating or harvesting, generating electromagnetism for the Yucatan Peninsula. Anyway, I'll catch up with you on the next video. Take care of yourselves, peace out.